And welcome back to this week's episode of Gabe's Cave, guys. I'm your host on this Saturday episode, Uncle Nasty, and boy, do I have a treat for y'all. I know y'all are used to getting interviews on the Wednesday's episode, but we've got something special here. I've got a team of people, an artist and an author that worked on this phenomenal comic book that you see in front of me, and we are going to introduce them to you guys, and we are going to ask them some questions, and y'all are going to get to learn a little bit about these guys. So without any further ado, we're going to introduce Matt Gaudio and Nathaniel Foster. What's going on, guys?
Hey, what's up?
How are you?
Good, brother. Good, brother. Now, where are you guys at?
Matt, you want to start?
Sure. I'm out of New Jersey, so I'm dealing with the wildfires here right now. But I'm up north of where you guys are at.
Okay. Now, where are you at, Nathaniel?
I'm out of Pasadena, California.
Wow.
So no fires right now.
Y'all are Batman and Robin, but y'all are on different parts of the country here. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we actually met online. Matt and I actually have never met in person yet. We're still that's still to be done. We've been collaborating on opposite ends of the coast, which is pretty incredible that you can even do that now. So
The power of Zoom and Discord.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's life changing for us creative people. Matt and I probably never would have met. We never probably would have been able to collaborate had we not been in the same area.
Well, I'm sure these people out here that are watching this are about to be curious, so we're going to jump into this. But right before we start asking these questions and talking about this book, we're going to take just a second. We're going to thank our sponsor, RPGhiring.com. Thank you, RPGhiring.com. None of this would be possible without you. Building people, changing lives. If you guys are looking for a new career, check them out. All right, guys, look, let's jump into this book. The first thing I want to talk to you guys about, and I want to brag, Nathaniel can hear me now. He couldn't hear me earlier, but I just want to say that immediately, people aren't going to know this, and if you guys are watching this and you guys don't know this about Uncle Nasty, you're going to know this now. The Nasty in Uncle Nasty was from a rap name. I used to go do freestyle contests and stuff like that. So before I rapped, I would be the beatbox guy or the guy that kept the beat on the table. So the minute I saw this come in, I was immediately intrigued. So I took one out immediately and grabbed it and opened it up. And the first impression is that it feels amazing in your hand. The quality of the print of this book is right up there on par with any of the best printed comic books out there, any of the Image and DC stuff, because it's really whooping on Marvel right now. If you go pick up a Marvel book, it feels like it's made out of toilet paper. If you pick up this book, it's substantial. Like, it's not flimsy. You see what I'm saying? It's a good quality book. So that was my first impression. And so let's talk about this. So Nathaniel, you're the author.
Yep.
What was the thought process behind this story? What made you want to come up with these characters? How did you develop these guys?
So originally, back in this was an idea I had way back in college, almost 4 or 5 years ago now, and I was in acting school actually, and I was spending a lot of time, you know. I would get off late and I would go and rehearse my scenes, and walking back and forth from like my rehearsals, I'd listen to music, and I always knew I wanted to do some sort of superhero comic, but it's a genre that is like so steeped and like full of like unique and diverse characters, especially when it comes to powers. Like almost everything's been done in some capacity, but I started thinking about like, we've had sound superheroes before, with like Black Canary and like, Black Bolt having like any sort of sound that comes out of his mouth being a source of power. But we never had something where it was like the music was something that provided the power to this character. And I found that kind of interesting for several reasons, because number one, it makes him vulnerable. He has to have a source of sound for him to use his powers. And the second thing is it provides so much variety. Every time you change the music, his powers change. Like how cool is that? It's almost like, and I was watching like a lot of beatboxing videos when I first came up with the idea, and I was like, what is more freestyle than like, beatboxing? And so that sort of kind of put the dots together, and it kind of gave me the idea that every single type of music elicits a different ability for this guy, and that freestyle element between characters is just so interesting, and everything can change with the flip of a switch or the change of a track. So yeah,
very interesting, very very interesting. Let's ask Matt something here. The colors and the interior art in this, what was the hardest part about your job in bringing Nathaniel's vision and making it be what he was imagining in his head?
So I think the first thing that would immediately come to mind is just dealing with like sound and music in a visual medium. It's not TV, it's not film. You don't have the benefit of, real-time motion, things of that nature. But that doesn't limit your imagination and what you can do on the page. So in coming up with some of the different effects to represent either the music or the powers that stem from the music, or how the character himself is being affected by the music, those were fun challenges to try and tackle. So I think one of the things that we talked about early on, Nathaniel and I, was that in addition to these varied powers and things, is to try and keep the visuals just as varied. We really want to represent the different genres of music or different songs or whatever it may be that a beatbox is using to stand out as different from maybe a previous song/power set. So early on in the book, we have a scene where one of the characters is able to actually like mute the sound in an area. And Nathaniel was very clear that what this character is able to do is create a three-dimensional zone where there is a complete absence of sound. So that was fun, and I think the entire team really came together in a nice way, where I had designed this shape with a nice kind of jaggedy, energetic outline, and Nathaniel and our colorist Swancho decided that they were going to go with like a black and white interpretation within that area, within that zone, which I thought was really cool, and it looks awesome on the page. I was so happy. I only get to see my stuff through the line art, and I don't get to see it fully done until the colors are sent back to me. And I love that scene and that page particularly.
Awesome. So going off of what you guys just talked about right there, the person that you're mentioning, the character you're mentioning in the book that can stop the sound, that's Mute, correct? The character's name is Mute?
Yep.
Yeah, that is Mute. That's a proper name for a character that can create a bubble of silence. So yeah. It's interesting that another person that we have interviewed and we've talked to extensively since their project pretty much first started is a man named Michael Henson, and he created a book called Disputed Territory, and he's got even t-shirts he's got made that the guy's slogan is "Whiskey gives me powers." So depending on, and let me tell you something, guys. Let me tell you that you might be onto something here because this was different. So depending on the different spirits that he drinks is depending on the different powers that he has. So the different whiskeys or whatever, it all affects him differently. And this story just got optioned. So now they're talking about turning this into like a TV show or something. So there's high hopes for you guys here with what y'all got going here with the music giving him powers. But I have a question about that before we hop into the other stuff that I got wrote down, because y'all mentioned it. What would be the difference per se if he walked into like a metal concert and got into a fight, and if he walked into like a hip hop concert and got into a fight? How would the power level be different in that situation with beatbox? And
So
yeah.
So as we kind of get into like more of like the first issue, we really just get like a taste, like a small taste of what he can do with his abilities. And basically like he's going to have an entirely different array of abilities in one fight versus another fight, and what is the average length of a song, right? It's like, it can be anywhere from 2 minutes to like 4 minutes and 30 seconds on average.
Or 10 minutes if you listen to Tool.
Or 10 minutes. Right. And so if you're like at a metal concert, you could have a guy riffing up there, just shredding on his guitar for like, a good several minutes, if he wanted to. And so that could like, that sort of dictates, how long he can use a certain power. Different powers will be more stressful on his body. In my mind, like the more complex the music, the more instruments, the more noise, the more stress it'll put on him, and yet the more powerful he'll be. How loud it is. So like if you're at like a metal concert and it's just like blasting, he's gonna be like really, really powerful versus like, something that's soft and quiet may not put as much stress on him. So it's going to vary a lot. And as we kind of get into it and play, like I've like told Matt about some really wild ideas I have in the future for like, like speakers the sizes of houses and stuff, like coming down and just decimating blocks and just making him like ultra strong for just like 3 minutes. But afterwards, he's just toast, And then so like as for differences, it really just like kind of the sky's the limit. You can play and have as much fun with like one setting versus another setting, and like it just, the potential is pretty much unlimited with an idea like this. You really just can do whatever you want once you've established your set of rules, like for example, like in the comic, he switches to something I like to call his like chaos track, which is just a bunch of just noise. It's just like cars honking, gunshots, screaming, explosions, things like, and all this sound is coming out at once. And so chaos creates chaos in his powers, and then it essentially like just destroys everything around him, So it's, the type of music is going to inform the powers, and the type of sound is going to inform the powers. It's a very mutually beneficial or harmful arrangement. Like I want to have, in the future, we're going to get scenes that are comedic when they're just learning how to use their power, when he's just learning how to use his powers. Like, Kirk might play something like the wrong type of music, his brother, and then he gets, beat to a pulp while he's trying to flip through tracks because they haven't figured it out yet. So there's a lot of room for comedy and some pretty, exciting action as well.
So you mentioned the name, so let me go ahead and jump back over here to the front page, and we'll tell the people the two brothers, BEATBOX and Tune. Harry is BEATBOX's name, and Kirk is Tune. I want to start right off. This book, it says right there on the front page that the story starts in 1998. That's where this picks up at. And right from the jump, there is a very grown up and real depiction of domestic violence. And it goes on for several pages. And Frank is a real deal butthole. And I mean, a lot of people are going to be able to resonate with this situation, and it's going to hit home. So let me just ask, is there any particular reason why you chose that route to start this character off?
So I always like the idea of starting with because like most stories start with the hero, and I wanted to start with the villain. I wanted Max or Mute to be like a very relatable character and someone that, like, as Matt put it when we were working on it, he said that he really likes Max because he's easy to root for. And I think a villain that's easy to root for is a really powerful thing in a story. It makes them so like three-dimensional on the page. You understand their motivations, you understand their past, you're rooting for them to make good choices. And I think it's like it just changes the whole dynamic of a story when you actually care very deeply about the villain. And I in my job I actually encounter a lot of this stuff. So I like moonlight as a police officer, and it's my day gig. And so I encounter this stuff like all the time working in LA. And so some of those things were very sort of impactful. And like when you go to like a crime scene and you're seeing like the impact on someone in the family, you don't just see that kid or that family member once. You're usually returning to that house several times, and you can kind of tell the impact that it's having on those people over time. So I felt like and it's also something that's not really put in comics. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people. And Matt so brilliantly illustrated this scene because he put so much emotion into it. Like the reason it's so long is because I wanted to establish that Max is loved, that he's loved by his mother. And yet, even though his father is a bad man, he's still cared for, and that's often the case, that there is like a parent that cares about their kid, but they're in like an unhealthy relationship or something like that. And it was actually like more graphic, and Matt had to like kind of like rein it in. He's like, like, yes, this is truthful, but we have to be sensitive to this as well, because in my mind I wanted to represent it exactly how it is, and that's a very hard thing to see for a lot of people. So we had to kind of make it very tasteful. We had to be very strategic about how we depicted this scene. And I think Matt was right on the money, because I think we hit that sort of sweet spot where we really get that emotional attachment in the scene.
You got it from me. That's definite, because the minute it was over with, when the cops were there, and Beatbox makes the reference, and that he's like, I wish I could have saved him or whatever. I say, well, yep, that's how you make a villain. That's exactly. I actually said it out loud. There was actually nobody else in the room with me, and I was like, yeah, that's how you make a villain. Yep. Yeah. So y'all did a great job with the character development and on that part, and I believe you did a very well job to put that out in picture form and for everybody to see that and to be able to relate to that. I think it was done very well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It was definitely, if I could just add a little bit about that.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Yeah.
It was the first time I read through that scene in the script, that was kind of the scene that sold me on Nathaniel as a writer, because of what he put into the character of Max and how he made us empathetic to this young child who was experiencing this, and as I was drawing it, it was very powerful. There was a couple panels within those pages where I started to get emotional working on it, because you're trying to put yourself inside the heads of these characters, and you're inside the head of this very young boy, and he's in the situation that he's familiar with. We open up and he's in his room, it crouched beside his bed, and he's got the lights off, and that to me was, that was a little detail that was like indicative that he's been in this situation before, and he's kind of doing everything he can to remain invisible as his parents are having this really violent domestic dispute. But he's seen enough of this to kind of know, like, this is how I get out of the way, and make myself kind of invisible to this. And so we really wanted to harp on the connection between he and his mother, like Nathaniel was saying. And we tried to balance, honoring what a serious issue domestic violence is, but not making it over the top, physically gory or anything of that nature. And in fiction, the imagination can be just as, if not more powerful sometimes than the depiction. So we tried to leave a little bit up to the imagination and really get the emotional response. That was I think that was maybe the most important thing visually, was to get the emotional response of Max to what was happening around him.
Yeah. Sometimes what isn't seen is just as, if not more powerful than what you do see. So yeah, it definitely told a story all in itself right there in just the first couple of pages, for sure.
Yeah. And the whole thing about like making a superhero comic is like, we want, like, we want what every superhero comic has to a degree. Like, we want there to be like the hero's journey. We want there to be, some really cool action and costumes and things like that. But like the best superhero stories of all times are not really about the powers. They're really about the problems these people deal with. And the more you can make it about that, I think the more compelling the hero becomes. Every single action that they take after that, whether it be the villain or the hero, becomes something that is like fraught with like difficult choices that have to be made, and you're informed about those choices the more you invest in these scenes. So that's what we're after.
Now, was there any particular reason, right after the scene of the domestic violence occurs, you come upon a different form of scene, and that is where you learn that what this character really wants is to have been a ballet dancer.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you chose that to be what disappointed his father?
Yeah, so I actually was a dancer for a period of time. I did ballet, classical ballet. I danced, overseas in the Salzburg Ballet for like a summer and things like that. I got to do some pretty cool stuff as a dancer, and it's one of those things that's like when you're like a young guy, it's not something that's like cool, like playing basketball or being on a football team or things like that. Like you're a guy in a room full of a bunch of women, mostly, because that's just how ballet kind of is. But because I grew up in rural Montana, and sometimes when you grow up in like a very rural area and you have like aspirations to do things that are outside of that, like me personally, I had a lot of support when I wanted to do dancing. There was some concern, but there was a lot of support. But I saw a lot of kids who like grew up in families that were like farm families, and like, and I would see like kids that like would maybe want to do something else, but they couldn't because they wanted their parents wanted them to take over the farm. That's what was expected of them. So I think ballet is just a really good example of something that might not be accepted by people, because I've known dancers who weren't accepted by their family because they chose to do something like that. And because I had danced, I could kind of get like, I knew something about it. I could add a little bit of my observations of the experiences of others to that character and to that scene. It's really just a metaphor for all disappointment between a parent and a child, and the expectations that go along with like growing up, wanting to be accepted for having a creative goal or dream, even though it's a hard path, and sometimes it's not a very rewarding one for a long period of time. I mean, creatively it is, but financially it can be a struggle.
Well, that's awesome, bro. That's really cool. A little background too. In this first issue, we don't see a lot of Tune.
No.
Are we going to learn more about him in the? Obviously, he's going to be very important because his name is on the the title of the comic. So are we going to learn more about him in issue 2?
We're going to learn a little bit more about him in issue 2 for sure. Like Matt actually just finished illustrating issue 2, and it turned out really, really well. And we get like a very like issue 1 very much focuses on Max and Harry and a little bit of the dynamic between the two brothers. But the dynamic between the brothers is ultimately what's going to determine the outcome of the entire story, you know? And so issue 2, we get a lot more of the dynamic between the brothers. And then as the story continues, you know, because right now we're doing a bunch of flash forwards and flash backwards, that kind of thing. But, you know, at a certain point, we're going to just get some like narrative storytelling that just goes and just follows their path, you know. But being a twin, being brothers can be difficult, you know. Sometimes one brother is better at something than the other brother. And that can be hard. Sometimes like one brother gets more praise than the other brother. Like I remember growing up with my brother, and we have a really good relationship, but my brother is like really, really smart, and he was like very athletic, and you know, he's just an all-around talented guy. And I had to work for a lot of stuff that I wanted to do. Like I remember when I first started out writing, I was just awful. I had to put in so much time and effort to become a good storyteller. And so it's kind of the difference between, you know, different gifts and talents.
Well, is this the first story that you've ever done with BEATBOX and Tune?
This is, I've never done a story with BEATBOX. So I originally wrote it as a screenplay. So I have like a whole mapped out, you know, arc of these characters already in mind. But I adapted it. Well, no, I mean, like no one wants to read a screenplay anymore. You know, everything that's going into film is being adapted from something else. And I loved like reading comics, the medium, but I was not exposed to it growing up in a very small town. Like we just didn't have shops, we didn't have bookstores for that kind of thing. We just had like some Bone comics and like the local school library and stuff like that. So that's what I was exposed to. That's what I read, Calvin and Hobbes. And so when I was in college, you know, I wanted a medium where I could immediately connect with people and tell the story how I wanted to tell it. And when I started looking into comics, this became more and more clear that this was it. You know, this was like a great way. You know, it's filmmaking on a page, realistically. You know, that there's more nuance to it, and it still requires the same things as making a movie: collaboration between a team of people. You know, creative vision. And so it was immediately appealing to me the more I got into it. And then working with Matt was just like, that just took the cake, because it was like an immediate, like, we just kind of were on the same page, and we just went to work. And
well, speaking of that,
making cool comics.
Speaking of that, Matt, do you have any further background in comics? Is this your, you know, first or second? Tell us some stuff that you've been doing, and then tell us how you and Nathaniel became a team.
Sure. So I kind of started my comics journey. I went to the Kubert School in New Jersey. So after I graduated college, I actually went to school for biology, but I had this comic itch that I needed to scratch, and I knew the school was nearby to where I grew up. So I attended the Kubert School, and out of school, first couple jobs were very small, like indie book stuff. A cover here, a public domain superhero there. And then I did a bunch of stuff through Dynamite. So I had a chance to work on like a Red Sonja Pathfinder crossover. I did some Vampirella backups, some Betty Page. I worked on John Wick, the John Wick series. And Nathaniel approached me. I guess he was doing his research in trying to find an artist that was the right fit for this story. And he approached me via email, and we got to talking, and he sent over the script. And like I said, I've been doing this long enough now. I graduated in 2015. So I've been doing this long enough now that I've been approached fairly regularly with scripts or ideas for comics. And it runs the gamut in terms of what people understand about the medium and the industry, and what they present to you essentially as like a pitch. And I was very impressed with what Nathaniel was sending me. It was, formatted for comics. It was well written. I really enjoyed the character development. He and I connected. We both share a similar philosophy with comics and especially superheroes. And we oftentimes will like point back to a Peter Parker type character where his out of costume life is just as interesting as what he does in costume. So, in seeing some of the scenes on the page, the stuff with Max and his family, and then seeing a character like Harry, our lead character, who, superhero book, we're accustomed to it all being about strength and powers and things. And he's this guy who his passion is dancing. That was very different. And I really liked that. And it kind of plays against stereotypes and things of that nature. So we make it's a good match. You don't always get that. It's definitely the outlier. So I think, I'm not going to speak for Nathaniel, but I feel very lucky, very fortunate that we've been able to find each other and pair up to work on a bunch of different stories, and BEATBOX and Tune is hopefully just the first of many.
Well, that's awesome, guys. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, Matt was like a dream come true to find, because like he just handles like emotion and characters so well. And I have an acting background, so like that's what I was looking for in an artist. Somebody who is an illustrator but understands acting. And when I was like looking through like people's portfolios, like I remember finding Matt's like Instagram, and I looked through like everything he's ever posted, and I was like, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's really good. And then, and I was just trying to like think about like, how would the artist approach my work if I handed them this script, like, and they were drawing it, like, how would the things that are on there that are in their portfolio, how would those things change and be adapted to my script? And it was a no-brainer for me. Like Matt's and he's like such an honest guy and just like a total breeze to work with, so it was like one of those like match made in heaven type situations that we just kind of like, I just lucked out and happened to find his stuff and that he was available to work. And, I think that that's a rare thing. And when it happens, it's like, it's definitely something you want to hang on to and develop over time. Like Matt and I just sent Matt a script for something new that we're working on, and we're really both super excited about developing. And we're going to be doing that in conjunction with releases of BEATBOX and Tune, something that's like a shorter run series. And we were both getting so excited talking about it and like shooting ideas back and forth. But one of the things that like Matt also really brought to the table was like, we were trying to think about like how we could visually represent some of the powers in BEATBOX and Tune. And Matt had like this brilliant like stroke of genius to like use hands, to create, it would be so easy to just use like a button to like change and like manipulate like the physical things in the room for sound. But Matt was like, no, we can do better than that. And he came up with this idea to use like hand gestures, which is really cool. And it turned out awesome. So it's like, that's the kind of thing that like you bounce off of each other when, and I just like, whenever I give Matt a script, there's like a certain amount of freedom that I just afford him because he just gets it.
It's, how many stores are you guys in right now?
We're in Gabe's Cave Comics. You guys are our first comic shop.
No way.
Yeah, you guys are our first adopter of BEATBOX and Tune. It's tricky, when you're just starting out, like,
Uncle Nasty can help with that. immediately I can help with that. So yeah.
We're really trying to get the comic out there. You know, we want to offer good deals to comic shops so we can get placement. Like, you know, we want this to be a big thing that a lot of people get to enjoy and appreciate. And the more people that read it, the more we get to make of it. So that's huge for us. Is like, so we're super appreciative of Gabe's Cave Comics. You know, you guys are at the front line of indies. You know, you guys are the first adopters of good stuff, and we're super excited to be collaborating with, you know, a comic shop that appreciates what we do.
We are fans of creators first and foremost here, artists and writers. If anybody that's trying to do anything and has a passion and puts the effort in to put something of this type of quality in your hand, it deserves to be shared. It deserves to be given a little push. So if you guys are watching this, because I know for a fact that I've got people that work in comic shops, manage comic shops, and own comic shops that watch this show. You guys get in touch with us. Of course, their information will be in the description of this video, so you'll be able to get in touch with them and to get this book. Guess what, guys? I'm actually going to give 2 of these that we bought from you guys away on this episode. So people that are watching this, there's going to be 2 lucky winners out there. You guys are going to get an opportunity to get one of these books. So you know what you've got to do. You've got to like this video. You've got to comment on this video. I can't tell if you shared it or not, so that doesn't disqualify you, but it definitely gets you cool points in my book if you share it. Okay, and yeah, just get in there. It'll be just like we do on the other videos. There'll be a link for giveaway. You'll just get in there and we'll do a random video, and first and second place will get this amazing beatbox and tune, or I don't know, I might get crazy and decide to do first and last place. I don't know, so we might do something like that. Guys, thank you very much for coming on and talking to us. And I'm gonna the guys that I know for sure that would like to have this in their shop, I'm gonna start getting in contact with them about just as soon as me and you stop talking. So
that sounds wonderful.
Thank you, Uncle Matt.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Anything else you'd like to tell the people? When important question, when are we going to be able to get issue 2? I know you said that he just got finished. When is this going to be available?
So issue 2, we're going to have like a pre-launch for our Kickstarter up probably in like 2 weeks.
You have to tag us so we can share it.
Okay, we will definitely do that. Yeah, we're gonna have our pre-launch up, and we're hoping to launch it early or mid next month. And you know, we'll probably have like hopefully some retail deals on there for comic shops, so that they can get the books at like a really affordable rate and get them over to them and distributed. But yeah, our goal is just to, like, you know, just get people reading our book. You know, we're just excited about it, and we hope people will be excited too.
The price for retailers, guys, on these books is plenty cheap enough. It's like, I know they're talking about wanting to be able to get it to you cheaper, and that's business aspect, but I'm telling you, business aspect from my end, I'm telling you, they already cheap enough. Y'all go ahead and reach out there and get y'all some. Y'all go ahead and get y'all some. If they get cheaper, that's just better. But hey, they're cheap enough as it is for retailers to be able to share this product with their customers.
Yeah.
Guys, you got about 2 minutes to let me tell the folks about some stuff we got going on, and then we're going to say goodbye, bro.
Okay.
All right, guys, I want to tell y'all about the Oklahoma City Pop Culture Con that is June 24th and the 25th, the Oklahoma City Horror Con that is August 5th and the 6th, and Cowtown Comic Con that is September 30th through October 1st. I'm not just telling y'all about those because I want y'all to go for no reason. I personally will be at those cons, so come hang out with Uncle Nasty. Also, if you are anywhere near the area, get by here to see these people, because on July 16th, we've got Lisa Miller, Songbird Pistol Art Girl. She'll be here signing autographs, taking commissions. July 17th, we've got Rob Broussard, another fantastic artist. He'll be here meeting fans, taking commissions. And then on July 22nd, an amazing author, T.B. Phillips. He is the author of many different series, and he's always creating something new. The Mountain Viking of a Man with the Heart of Gold. Y'all come by and meet him. And every Thursday night, Gabe's Cave After Dark with Uncle Nasty, where I sell comic books, auction style, and you can even get yourselves one of these. That's right. Yeah. Great content, guys. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to me, and I'll be talking to you guys again. So when issue 2 comes out, be expecting me to be trying to reach out to y'all, because I'm gonna want to see it and talk to y'all again. I want to see where these characters go.
Well, we're thrilled
for sure.
We're thrilled to hear that, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, man. All right, guys. Peace.